Good morning, everyone. In previous sessions, we completed our discussion related to Linux package manager, like yum package manager, apt package manager that we discussed in the last session, how to install the software, all those topics we discussed in the last class. So we completed our Linux. And from today, we are going to start with shell scripting. From today, we are going to start with our discussion related to shell scripting. So before going to understand this shell scripting, first let's understand this Linux architecture. So now how the Linux is going to execute. Now here guys, we will have hardware components. So for every machine, hardware components will be available like a CPU, RAM, motherboard, peripheral devices will be available. So hardware components will be available for the machine. So similarly, when we are working with this, any machine, the hardware components will be available. Can we directly talk to hardware components of any machine? We cannot directly talk to the hardware components of the machine. Now, in order to provide the instructions to hardware components of the machine, there will be one layer that is called kernel. In the Linux operating system, so we will be having kernel. Kernel is used to provide the instructions to hardware components. Kernel is used to provide the instructions to hardware components. Now, how can we provide the instructions to the kernel? To provide the instructions to the kernel, we are using shell. We are using shell to provide instructions to the kernel. So we are going to execute some commands by using shell. Those commands will interact with the kernel, will give some instructions to the kernel. Kernel will interact with the hardware to perform the operation. So we are a user. Now, as a user, I want to communicate with the Linux operating system. I want to create some files in the Linux operating system. I want to read the data available in the file. I want to create a file or I want to delete the file. Then as a user, we are going to communicate with Linux by using some commands. Okay. Now here you see I connected with my Linux machine using mobile extrom. Now here I'm going to execute a command ls-l ls-l. So when I execute ls-l command, it is displaying list of files and directories in the present working directory. Now I want to create one more file, touch my file 1.txt. So when I execute the touch command, it created one file, my file 1.txt, one file got created. How this file is created with this touch command, this is what happening internally. As a user, we executed one command by using shell. As a user, we executed one command by using shell. So touch command I executed by using shell, touch f1.txt. When you execute this touch command using shell, that shell will interact with the kernel. Whatever the command you execute, this command will be given to kernel. Kernel will give the instructions to the hardware to perform this operation. So kernel is the one which is going to interact with the hardware and to perform the operations on this Linux machine. Are we going to talk to the kernel directly? As a user, can we directly talk to the kernel? As a user, we cannot talk to the Linux kernels directly. For that, we are using a shell. Okay, shell is kind of a interface where we can execute our commands. Okay, now here I'm using this terminal. I'm writing my commands here, ls-l. When I execute a command in this terminal, shell will read this command, will check the syntax of the command. If the syntax of the command is correct, then shell will convert that command into kernel understandable format. As a user, when you execute the command, shell will read that command, will validate the command. If the command syntax is correct, then shell will convert the command into kernel understandable format, will send the instructions to the kernel. Kernel will read the instructions given by the shell and the kernel will convert into the hardware components understandable format. So this is what is happening in the Linux when you execute our commands. Okay, guys. So what is shell? Can you tell me what is shell? Right. So here shell is an interface, or I can say shell is responsible. Shell is responsible for reading commands given by user. We are executing some commands. So who is going to process our commands? Who is reading our commands? Our commands will be processed by shell. Shell will verify command syntax and will give the input for kernel. Shell shell will read shell will read command syntax. Shell will verify command and will give instructions to kernel. Will give instructions to kernel to process that command. To process that command given by user. Given by user. Suppose see here, I'm executing a command with a name called ABC. Is there any command available with a name called ABC? It is invalid. The command is not valid. That's why it is saying that command not found. But when I execute ls, it is executing. So ABC is invalid command, ls is valid command. Who is verifying the command is valid, command is not valid? Shell is going to verify that. Shell is responsible for reading the commands given by user. Shell will verify the command and will give instructions to kernel to process that command. Okay, if a command is invalid, shell will give error message. If command is invalid, if command is invalid, shell will display, shell will give error. Shell will give the error. Now, what is a kernel? Kernel will execute the command with the hardware of our machine. Kernel will execute our command with system hardware components. Kernel will execute our command with kernel will execute our command. Will execute that command with system hardware components. Now here, what is this shell? Shell will act as a mediator between the user and the kernel. Kernel is the one which is doing the actual operation. So I am a user. I want to execute one command. So I cannot talk to the hardware components directly. I cannot talk to kernel directly. These are not possible. I can't talk to hardware. I can't talk to kernel. Then how can I give instructions to my hardware to create one file or delete one file, read all the files? So I will use shell as a mediator. Can I say shell is a mediator between the kernel and user from this diagram? Can we say shell is a mediator between user and kernel? Yes. Shell acts as mediator between user and kernel. What is this kernel? Kernel is the one which will interact with the system hardware to perform the operation. If you want to create the file in the Linux machine, or if you want to delete the file, if you want to copy the data, if you want to rename the file, if you want to create it, whatever you want, do with the commands, right? So those commands will be executed by the user. So when the user executed that command, the command will be processed by shell. If the command is valid, shell will give the instruction to the kernel. Kernel will interact with the hardware. So I hope you got what is shell now. Shell acts as a mediator between user and kernel. Okay, then what is scripting? So first we understood what is the shell. What is the shell? So we are here to understand shell scripting. So to understand that shell scripting, first we need to understand what is the shell. I hope you got what is the shell. Shell is acting as a mediator between the user and kernel. Whatever the commands we execute, those commands will be processed by shell and will give the instruction to the kernel. Kernel will interact with the hardware and will perform the actual operation. What is scripting? What is scripting? Right? Scripting means set of commands mentioned in a file. What is scripting? Scripting means scripting means set of commands mentioned in a file for execution. Okay, scripting is used to automate our routine work. Scripting is used to automate our routine work. Scripting is used to automate our routine work. Now, for example, see here, I want to execute some commands in this Linux machine. When I connect it to my Linux machine, I want to check what is today's date. I want to check what is today's date. I want to see calendar. Okay, I want to check who am I. I want to check my present working directory. I want to check list of commands available, list of files available. So see how many commands I have executed. I executed a date command. I executed cal command. I executed who am I command. I executed pwd command. I executed ls-l command. So every day when I connect to my Linux machine for first time in the morning, I'm checking what is today's date. What is my current username? What is my present working directory? What are the files available? Now, same commands I'm executing every day. Can I say this is my routine work? Can I say this is my routine work now? Executing these common commands every day. This is my routine work. Instead of we are executing those commands every day individually, we can keep those commands in one file and we can execute that file so that all commands will be executed at a time. So the file which we are using to execute a set of commands, that file is called as script file. That file is called as script file. Scripting means set of commands mentioned in a file for execution. Scripting is used to automate our routine work. For example, for example, for example, I want to execute below commands every day. For example, I want to execute below commands every day as a Linux user. So what are the commands I'm executing every day? I'm executing date command. I want to see cal command. I want to see who am I, and I want to see my present working directory. I want to see list of files available, ls-l. Instead of executing these commands one by one, we can keep all these commands in one file and we can execute that file. That file is called as script file. Okay, instead of executing these commands, instead of executing all these commands manually one after other, instead of executing these commands manually, we can keep them, we can keep them, we can keep them in a file and we can execute that file. Okay, scripting means what? Scripting means a set of commands mentioned in a file for execution. Scripting is used to automate our routine work. For example, I want to execute below commands every day as a Linux user. Like date I want to execute, cal I want to execute, who am I want to execute, present working directory, ls-l. So these are set of commands I want to execute in the Linux. So when I execute these commands, what is happening? When I'm executing these commands as a user, whatever the commands I'm executing in the terminal, those commands will be taken by shell. Shell will verify my command syntax. Is my command valid or not? So if the command is valid, then shell will talk to kernel, then kernel will talk to hardware and will process your command. Okay, instead of executing these commands manually one by one every day, you can keep all the commands in one file and we can execute that file. The file which contains a set of commands is called as scripting. Now you understand what is shell and what is scripting and why it is called shell scripting. Shell scripting is used to execute a set of commands using a file. That is called shell scripting. Shell scripting means executing set of commands by using a file. Instead of executing the commands manually one by one, you can keep a set of commands that you want to execute to automate your work. Every day, I want to restart my server. Every day I want to restart my server. So my application is deployed in the Linux machine by using a server. Every day morning, I want to stop my server. I want to delete that temporary data and I want to restart my server. Instead of we are executing that manually, whatever the commands you want to execute, those commands we can keep in a file and we can execute that file. The file which contains set of commands is called as script file. The process of executing set of commands through a file is called as shell scripting. Instead of executing these commands manually, you can execute them, no problem. Already we connected to Linux machine. We are executing commands ls-l, pwd, who am I, date. I'm executing these commands manually. Instead of executing these commands manually, you can keep these commands in a file and you can execute that file. That file is called as shell scripting. Okay, guys, now can you tell me what is the shell scripting? Can you tell me what is shell scripting now? The file which contains a set of commands to execute is called as script file. The file which contains set of commands for execution is called as script file. Or it will be called as scripting. It will be called as a script file or it will be called as a scripting. The file which contains set of commands for execution is called as script file. Script file contains a scripting. Scripting means set of commands. Okay, now can you tell me what is the shell scripting now? Can you tell me what is the shell scripting now? Can you tell me what is shell scripting? What is shell scripting now? Come on, guys. I want your definition now. So we are here to discuss about shell scripting, right? So I told you what is the shell. Shell is a mediator between the user and kernel. Whatever the commands we execute, shell will read those commands, will validate those commands, will give the instructions to the kernel. Kernel is one layer in the Linux which will interact with the hardware components to perform the actual operation. Then what is the scripting? Scripting means a set of commands mentioned in a file for execution. Whatever the commands we want to execute, instead of executing the commands manually, we can automate the commands execution by keeping in a file. So when you want to run the commands, you just run that file. So the commands will execute which are available in the file. Shell scripting. So what is shell scripting now? What is shell scripting now? Shell scripting is used to execute set of commands using shell. Shell scripting means shell scripting is used to execute set of commands using a script file. Script file contains set of commands. Shell scripting is used to execute set of commands using a file. So commands we will execute when we execute the script file. When we execute script file, then shell will read those commands, and will verify commands syntax. When we execute script file, what will be there in the script file? Commands will be there. When we execute script file, then shell will read those commands and will verify command syntax. Shell will give instructions to kernel. Kernel will give the instructions to hardware components. Kernel will give instructions to hardware components to perform actual operation. Whether you want to create the file, you want to delete the file, you want to install a software, you want to delete a software, whatever you want to do, you are doing with the commands. So those commands we are going to keep in a file. The file which contains the commands for execution is called script file. When we execute that script file, shell will read those commands, will verify the syntax. If the command syntax is valid, shell will provide instructions to kernel. Kernel will act as a mediator between shell and hardware components. Shell will act as a mediator between the user and kernel. Kernel will act as a mediator between the shell and hardware. Shell will act as a mediator between the user and kernel. Kernel will act as a mediator between hardware and shell. So I hope you got what is shell scripting now. What is shell scripting now? Okay. Clear for everyone? Clear for everyone? Shell will not communicate with the hardware directly, guys, in the Linux. That is how they designed the Linux operating system. Shell cannot communicate with the hardware directly. Kernel will communicate with the hardware. Kernel will communicate with the hardware to perform the actual operation. Shell cannot communicate with the hardware. Shell will give instruction to kernel. Kernel will interact with the hardware. Sir, why kernel is available? That is acting as a mediator, right? That is acting as a mediator to provide the instructions to hardware components. Okay, now here we understood what is a shell and what is a scripting. Now we need to understand how to write the scripting and how to execute by using shell. So types of shells in the Linux. In the Linux, it is not about one shell, guys. There are several shells available in the Linux, which are used to execute our commands. Types of shells. There are several types of shells available in the Linux operating systems. It is not about just one shell which is going to read our commands. There are several shells available. There are several shells available in Linux. What are those shells available? First one is born shell. First one is born shell. And the second one is bash shell. Third one is corn shell, C shell, T shell, jet shell, like that. There are several shells available which are used to process our commands. C shell, T shell, jet shell, like that. There are several shells available in the Linux operating system. Okay, now guys, the most commonly used shell in the Linux environment is the bash shell. Born shell is available, bash shell is available, corn shell is available, C shell, T shell, jet shell, like that. There are several types of shells available in Linux operating system. Okay, there are several shells available. We know what is shell. We know what is shell. Shell is a mediator between the user and kernel. Shell is responsible to read the command syntax, verify the command. If the command is valid, give the instruction to the kernel. That is the purpose of shell. So how many shells are available in the Linux? Is it only one shell? No, there are several shells available in the Linux operating system. What are the shells available in the Linux operating system? Born shell available, bash shell available, corn shell is available, C shell available, T shell available, jet shell available. Okay, now here we can check what all the shells available in our Linux machine also. Okay, we can check all the shells available in the Linux machine. cat/etc/shells. Now see what are the shells available. Bash shell is available, and T shell is available, C shell is available. These all are the shells that are available in the Linux machine. Okay, so display all the shells of our Linux machine. What is the command? cat/etc/shells. It is going to display all the shells which are available. Okay guys, there are several shells available, But what is our default shell? There are several shells available. Which one is the default shell that we are going to use? What is the default shell currently? Echo dollar shell. If you use, then what is the default shell we are getting? Bash shell. Okay, out of all the shells, which one is having more demand? Which is the mostly used shell is what in the Linux? Bash. Okay, display the current shell using in our Linux. Display the current shell. Display the default shell. Display default shell of our Linux machine. Right? How to check the default shell of our Linux machine? Echo is used to print dollar shell. It is an environment variable. Echo is used to print the content. Dollar shell is an environment variable. It is used to print which shell is getting used in our Linux machine. So what is the default shell we are getting? What is the default shell in our machine? /bin/bash. That means we are using bash shell. So out of all these shells, which shell will be used mostly? The most commonly used shell. The most commonly used shell in Linux is bash shell. The most commonly used shell in Linux is bash shell. It is powerful than other shells available. It is more powerful than other shells available in the Linux. So that's why people will be using bash shell, and that is the default shell which is available in our Linux machine. Shell is an interface which is used to read the commands and will give the instructions to the kernel. Kernel will interact with the hardware to perform the operation. Then what is scripting? So when we are working with Linux machines, we are going to execute set of commands. Every day, we need to execute some commands as part of our job. Instead of executing all these commands manually, we can use script. That means we can write commands in a file and we can execute that file so that all the commands mentioned in the file will be executed. The file which contains the commands for execution, that file is called as a script file. So we are going to execute script file by using shell, that is called shell scripting. So the process of executing set of commands through a file is called as shell scripting. Shell is used to read the commands, validate the syntax, right? Now, when we are executing the commands by using shell in the Linux, which shell will be used? Do we have only one shell or we have multiple shells in the Linux? There are several shells available in the Linux operating system. Bourne shell, bash shell, corn shell, C shell, T shell, jet shell, like that there are several shells available. How can we print all the shells available in our Linux? By using this cat command, we can print it. cat/etc/shells. It is printing the list of shells available in our machine. How can we check what is the default shell using in our machine? Echo $shell command we are using to print all the shells. So out of all the shells, which shell is the most commonly used shell in the Linux? That is a bash shell. That is a bash shell. Are you clear? Are you clear now? Okay, let us create first shell script and let's try to execute. Okay guys, now rm star. Okay, I have deleted everything currently. In my present working directory, do I have any files guys? ls-l. I don't have anything in my present working directory. I want to create one script file and I want to execute that file. I want to create one script file and I want to execute that file. So what is my present working directory? I'm in EC2 user directory. This is the default home directory of the EC2 user. Okay, in this directory currently no files available. ls-l, nothing is available. Now I want to execute commands by using a file. Okay, for that I'm going to write script file. How to write a script file? Let's create one file, vi task.sh. I want to perform some task. So why we are going to use shell scripting? To automate our tasks. Whatever the work that we want to do manually can be automated by using script files. Okay, so here shell script files will have .sh as an extension. Okay, what should be the extension for the script file? .sh. Okay, so now shell script file will have .sh as an extension. Shell script files will have .sh extension. That nothing but script. Any file which contains .sh, that is called shell script. In that file, Linux commands will be available for execution. Shell script files will have .sh extension. Okay, now I'm creating file, go to insert mode. Just a simple commands I am executing. Who am I? Okay, what is my present working directory? What is today's date? ls-l. Can I say these are the four commands? Can I say these are four commands? Who am I? pwd date ls-l. I can execute all these commands manually, but I want to execute them through a file. That is called shell scripting. I have created a file with .sh extension. In that file, I have written four commands. Save this file, ls-l. Can you see? Can you see task.sh created? Can you see task.sh file created with the commands? Yes, we got it. Now how to run this file? How to run this script file? File is created. In that file, commands also available. Then how to execute this file? Check it. First, do we have execute permission for this file? We discussed about file permissions. Read permission, write permission, execute permission. Read write you understood at that time. Execute, sir, what is the meaning of execute? Shell script file is available. Now I want to execute this file. Do we have execute permission for this file, or we don't have execute permission for this file? Guys, can you tell me, do we have execute permission for this file, or we don't have execute permission for this file? We don't have execute permission for this file. Currently, I logged in as which user? EC2 user. Who is the owner of this file? EC2 user. We discussed about file permissions and file owners. What is the command to change the file permission? chmod command. What is the command to change the file owner? chown command. So this file owner is EC2 user, and I currently connected to this machine as a EC2 user. But as a EC2 user, can I run this file? Can I execute this file? Can I execute this script file? Do I have permission for that? Do I have execute permission on this file? I don't have it. Do you know how to provide execute permission on this file? Do you know how to provide execute permission for a user? Only for a user I want to give the execute permission. What is the command I will use to provide execute permission for only the user who created this file? chmod u plus x. chmod u plus x, that is used to provide only execute permission for the user. Okay, currently execute permission is not available. Let us try to execute. Let us try to execute. To execute the script file, directly we can execute task.sh. Task.sh. Sorry, sh space task.sh. sh space task.sh. Okay, so this script file is getting executed directly because we are the owners and we are able to run this file. So if it is not working, then we can give chmod u plus x, then task.sh. ls-l. Now can you see? I'm able to give the permission. Okay, suppose chmod u minus x. chmod u minus s task.sh /task.sh. Okay, so when I execute with the ch command, when I execute with the sh command, it is directly getting executed as a script file. But when I execute that file by using /, it is saying that permission denied. So when I use /task.sh, it is checking that whether this user having a permission to run this file or not. It is saying that permission denied. So when this is saying that permission is denied, when I execute /task.sh, that is my script file, I'm getting the exception as permission denied. Now, how can I give the permission? Chmod u plus x task.sh. I gave the permission /task.sh. Now see, I'm able to execute that. When I execute that, what it is telling? EC2 user. Why EC2 user coming? I have given the first command as who am I? See this file? Cat task.sh. What is my first command? Who am I? When I execute this who am I, it printed EC2 user. Perfect. When I give pwd, what is present working directory? It is printing home/ec2 user. Home/ec2 user. Date, it is printing the date of that. It is printing the today's date. Okay, so shell script files we can execute in two ways. One is /sh file. When you execute with the /, it will check the execute permission is available for that file or not. When you give sh, directly it is getting executed. Okay, right. Shell script files will have .sh extension. Working with first shell script. Working with the first shell script program. Shell script program. Okay, create a file using simply I'm using $vi task.sh. In this file, I'm writing some commands. Who am I? Pwd date. Save the file and close it. Save the file and close it. Okay. Then run this file. How can we run this file? .sh space task.sh. sh space task.sh. This is used to run the command, run the shell script. Run the shell script. Create a script file. Create a script file. I'm able to create a script file via editor I'm using to create a script file. Inside the script file, I'm writing some commands. Then I'm closing that file. How to close that file? Escape plus :wq. So we discussed already VI editor. VI editor already we have discussed. VI task.sh. It will open. You can write the commands and you can save it and you can close it. Save it and close it. Escape :wq. I'm able to save it and I'm able to close it. Who am I? Pwd date. Save the file and close it. Run the shell script. What is the command to run the shell script? Sh task.sh. If we get permission denied, then we should provide execute permission. We should provide execute permission. So to whom we need to provide the execute permission? Which user is running that file? For that we need to provide execute permission. So we need to provide execute permission using chmod command. Using chmod command. So we can run the script file like this also. /task.sh. So like this also you can run the shell script. So this is run the shell script, that is option 1, and run the shell script, this is option 2. When you go for option 2, it will ask for the permission. So you need to provide execute permission to run that script file. Are you able to understand how to write our first script and how to execute it? Come on, guys. Are you able to understand how to write a first shell script? Perfect. Next one. Guys, when we are writing a shell script, right, we are going to specify shabang. What is shabang in the shell script? Let us see. What is shabang in shell script? Shabang is used to specify which shell should be used to process our script. Okay, so there are several shells available. There are several shells available in the Linux. The default shell is bash shell only. If you want to specify the shell to process your script, then we can use shabang. What is shabang in shell script? Shabang is used to specify. Shabang is used to specify the default shell that should be used. The shell shabang is used to specify the shell which should be used to process our script. Okay, we are writing a file. Inside the file, we are writing some commands. Now you see vi task.sh. I have some commands. Did I specify which shell should be used? I have not specified. I have not specified the shell that should be used to process our script. I have not specified the shell to process our script. So do we have any option to specify which shell should be used to process our script? That's where shabang comes into picture. Okay, so shabang is used to specify which shell should be used to process our script. Script means a file which contains the commands. Okay, now here how to specify this shabang? Example, we will specify the shabang like this. We will specify the shabang like this /bin/bash. That means I want to use bash shell to process my script. Okay, so this is the syntax that I'm going to specify. Right? Dash not /bin/bash. Is it mandatory to specify the shabang? It's not mandatory, guys, because you see, I'm able to execute my script file task.sh file without shabang also. I'm able to execute my task file without shabang also. But shabang, if you want to specify the shell that should be used to process your script, then you can go with that shabang. So ash not /bin/bash. So when we will use this shabang, in the by default, we are using bash shell. Suppose you want to use some other shell to execute your script in other machines. Currently, I'm using Amazon Linux. In this Amazon Linux, we are having bash as a default shell. Suppose if you go for tomorrow, a Ubuntu or Red Hat or SUSE or Fedora, Kali Linux, Debian Linux, they may have different shell as a default. Okay, in Amazon Linux, currently in this Linux machine, I'm having bash as a default shell to process my script. So tomorrow when there are 200 distributions available for Linux, so maybe from distribution to distribution, the default shell might get changed. So always I want to execute my script with the bash shell only in other Linux machines also. Then can we use shabang to specify which shell should be used to process my script? Guys, come on. Can we specify which shell should be used to process our script now? So what is the shabang here? What is the shabang? Can you tell me? What is the shabang here? What is the shabang? Shabang is used to specify which shell should be used to process our script. Shabang is used to specify which shell should be used to process our script. Slash bin slash bash. I want to specify that bash shell should be used. Ashok, why you need to specify the bash shell here? Default bash only na? In my current Linux machine, default is bash. Tomorrow, if I go for other Linux machine, bash may not be the default one. Then how can I set that? Bash should be used to process only my script. My script file should be processed with only bash shell. That I can specify by using shabang. Okay, right. Now, let me write one more script. Let me write one more script file. Okay, this time I will be using shabang. Ash not slash bin slash bash slash bin slash bash echo welcome to scripting. Welcome to scripting. Echo scripting is used to automate regular work. Scripting is used to automate regular work. So this is my shell scripting. In the Linux, what is the purpose of echo command? What is the purpose of echo command? See here, echo, I'm going to give hello. Then what is happening? When I give echo, it is just printing the given message. Echo is used for printing purpose. Echo is used for printing purpose. Whatever the text you give for echo command, it will be printed on the terminal. That's it. Now I want to print these two lines at a time. Welcome to scripting. Scripting is used to automate regular work. Scripting requires lot of practice. Scripting requires lot of practice. Now I want to execute these three by using echo. So do you want me to execute one by one by using echo command? Can I keep these three in a file and can I execute? Can I keep this in a file and can I execute? Shell script 2. Okay, so can I keep this in a file and can I execute now? Is it recommended to execute them manually in the CMD in the terminal? Recommended to keep them in a file and execute? Recommended to keep them in a file and execute. Okay, script 2. So let me create a file now. Vi script2.sh. Script2.sh. Now how to write a shabang? Ash not slash bin slash bash script echo welcome to scripting. Welcome to scripting. Scripting requires lot of practice. Scripting is used to automate regular work. Scripting is used to automate regular work. Okay, I have created a script with 3 echo commands and I specified bash also. Save this file and try to execute /script2.sh. Script2.sh. What I am getting now? Permission denied. So why I am getting permission denied? ls-l. Can you see? Do we have execute permission for the script2? Do we have execute permission for script2? No. So what is the command to provide execute permission for the script? What is the command to provide execute permission for the script? What is the command to provide execute permission for the script? chmod. Okay, chmod u plus x script2.sh. Now ls-l. Now you see execute permission is also available for the user in the script2 file. For the script2, now we got execute permission. Then execute dot slash script2 dot sh. Now see, it is printing those 3 lines. Welcome to scripting. Scripting requires a lot of practice. Scripting is used to automate regular work. Scripting, we are able to write the echo 3 times. We have written the echo command 3 times to print the content. Then when I execute the script file, all the 3 echo statements got printed. Set of commands we are writing in a file is called as a scripting. Scripting files will have .sh extension. So the commands which we have written in the script will be executed, will be processed by shell. Shell is a mediator between the user and the kernel. Shell will read our commands, will validate the syntax, will give the instruction to the kernel. Kernel will interact with the hardware to perform the actual operation. Good. We are able to write our script. Okay. Now let me go for shell script 3. Now let me go for shell script 3. I want to write some other script. Okay. Not /bin/bash. Okay. I'm specifying my shabang here. Okay. This time I want to read some name from the terminal. I want to take some input from you when executing my script. Echo, enter your name. Echo, enter your name. This is echo. Whatever the name that you enter, I want to keep it into name variable. Name is a variable. It is a placeholder to store the value. Echo, enter your name. Then read name. That means it will wait for you to enter the name. Once you enter that name, I want to print that name. Good morning, something like this. Good morning. Whatever the name you enter, for that name, I want to print good morning. Read is echo is used to just print the content. Echo, enter your name. It is going to print this text as it is. Then I have a read. What is the purpose of read? It will ask you to enter the data. It will wait for you to enter the data. Whatever the data you enter, that will be stored into this name variable. Variables are used to store the data. Then I am writing echo good morning $of name. Whatever the value stored into this variable, I want to print that variable value. I want to print that variable value. Can you look at this script now? Can you look at this script now? Echo read. Echo is used to print the content. Echo is used to print the content. Then what is the read? Read is used to read the data from the keyboard. Whatever the name you enter, with that name I'm going to print good morning message. With that name I'm going to print good morning message. All right. All right. Perfect. Let me write this script now. Script 3 vi script3.sh shabang insert mode ash not /bin/bash. Okay. Echo, I will print enter your name. Then read that name, store into name variable. Then echo good morning $of name that you enter. So here read a name. It is used to read the data and store into this variable. To print that variable value, I'm using $of that variable. To print that variable value, I'm using $of variable. Now save that file. Chmod u+x script3.sh. Okay. /script3.sh. It is asking enter your name. I will give my name as Raju. Good morning, Raju. Are you able now? Execute once again. Enter your name. I'm giving my name as John. Good morning, John. Are we able to read the data? Are we able to read the data to the variable? Are we able to print the variable value by using read command? By using read command, are we able to do that? Are we able to do that? Read is used to read the value and store it. Once you store the value, you can print it using dollar of name. Dollar of name means getting the value of the variable. Getting the value of the variable. Now, let us write one more script. Shell script 4. Shell script 4. I want to perform sum of two numbers by using shell script. I want to add two numbers. I want to add two numbers in the shell script. Okay. I'm going to write shabang. It's a best practice to specify which shell should be used to process your script. Ash not /bin /bash I'm using. Now I'm going to take two numbers. I'm going to take two numbers. Okay. Here you can take directly a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 20. A is one variable, b is one variable. A is one variable and b is another variable. You got my point? Now here I will specify c is equal to I'm going to perform the sum. I'm going to perform the sum. Okay, dollar of a plus dollar of b. Dollar of a and dollar of b. Then finally I'm going to write echo dollar of c. Echo dollar of c. I'm taking two variables, a equal to 10, b equal to 20. Okay, c is equal to dollar of a plus dollar of b. I am fixing the value for the variable. In the a variable, I'm storing 10. In the a, I'm storing 10. In the b, I'm storing 20. Now I am doing a plus b. Dollar of a, that means I will get the a variable value. Dollar of b, I will get the b variable value. I'm storing that sum of a and b into c variable. I am printing the value of c. Now I can say sum of dollar a sum of dollar a and dollar b is dollar c. Okay, sum of dollar a and dollar b is dollar c. Let me take this script. Vi script 4.sh. Insert mode, paste it. Whatever I have written in the notepad, I just copied here, I pasted. A is equal to 10, b is equal to 20, c is equal to dollar of a plus b. Echo sum of dollar a and dollar b is dollar c. Save it. Ch mode u plus x script 4.sh. Then /script 4.sh. Command not found. There is a error. There is a error. Okay. Vi script 4.sh. Vi script 4.sh. So I think this spacing. Yep. Save it. Now /script 4.sh. Sum of 10 and 20 is 30. Are we able to do the sum of 10 and 20? Sum of 10 and 20 is 30. Vi script 4.sh. Now you see, this is our shell script. This is our shell script which is used to perform sum of two numbers. A is a 10, B is a 20, C is equal to dollar of dollar a plus dollar b. Echo sum of dollar a and dollar b is dollar c. Sum of dollar a and dollar b is equal to dollar c. It will print that. Instead of fixing the value for a and b, Can we read it from the keyboard? Instead of fixing the value for A and B, can we read it from the keyboard? Come on, guys. Can we read it from keyboard? How can we read it from the keyboard? How can we read this data from the keyboard? Instead of A is equal to 10, what I will do? Echo, enter first number. Enter first number. Then what I will do? Read A. Then I will specify echo, enter second number. Enter second number. Read B. That's it. Here I kept A is equal to 20 directly. A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 20 directly. This is fixing the value. Only if you run this program, always it will add 10 and 20 only. Output you will get 30. But I don't want to hard code the values. I want to pass the values dynamically. In order to pass the values dynamically, I'm using read. Read A, read B. Enter first number, enter the number, it will store into A. Enter the second number, you will enter second number, it will store into B. Now C is equal to dollar of A plus dollar of B. Then again echo sum of A and B is dollar C. Let's try to execute this script now. Vi script5.sh. Insert mode, copy this script. Yes, I have created script now. Save it. Ch mode, you can give 755 script5.sh. ls-l. For user, we got all the permissions. Okay. Then script5.sh dot slash script5.sh. Enter first number 25. Enter second number 20. Sum is 45. Sum of 25 and 20, it is printing as 40. Are you able to understand this? 10, then 20. Okay. Now it is trying to print that result. It is trying to print that result. Okay, guys. We are able to execute this script. We are able to execute this script. Shell script. If you want to stop the script, then you can write the end. Currently it is going in the loop. So when I do execution, enter first number 1, enter second number 2, it is printing that. Then again, it is having that bash. It is trying to print it. You can give end. Then the script is going to, the execution will be stopped when it encounters end. Like this, we can write it. So can you guys practice these shell scripts before coming to tomorrow? So tomorrow we are going to talk about little advanced, like how to work with conditional statements in the shell script, if else, how to work with loops, if else conditions, loops in the shell script, how to work with functions in the shell script, that I'm going to discuss in the tomorrow session. Okay, how to work with the loops, how to work with the conditional statements, and how to work with the functions in the shell script, that I will explain tomorrow. So if I teach more, you will get confused. Shell scripting, so you need to have the programming knowledge, then it would be easy to write these shell scripts. Conditional statements, if else conditions, while loop, do while loop, for loop. Okay, functions, calling one function from another function, all those things that I will discuss in the tomorrow session. So before coming to tomorrow, can you guys practice these 5 shell scripts? Shell scripting. What is a shell? What is a scripting? What is shell scripting? How many types of shells available? What is the default shell? And how to check the default shell? How to check all the shells? How to write our script file? How to write our script file? Working with the first shell script program, we are able to do. What is a shabang? Shell script 2, shell script 3, shell script 4, shell script 5. So please, these are very basic shell script programs we have created today, and we have executed them. In the tomorrow session, we'll talk about conditional statements like if else, loops, functions in the shell script. Good. Thank you guys. We'll see you in the tomorrow session.